Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft Legion Alpha video. Today we actually have a slightly different video from the norm. The focus of most of the gameplay discussion of the alpha has been surrounding the dungeon and PvP gameplay. Well, today I'm going to talk a little bit about how the Havoc Demon Hunter is actually a really fantastic solo farming spec that is a lot of fun to play, at least within this context. First of all, this was all done at item level 805 blue gear. Now, I headed into the Warlords of Draenor content to test out soloing that, and I found that DPS just wasn't sufficient to clear Hellfire Citadel, Hellfire Assault, and that tank stacks on other boss fights actually resulted in there just being damage that I couldn't really deal with. The same applied to the tank spec, which is called Vengeance. We'll likely need just a little bit more gear for clearing Warlords of Draenor content, but when we have that gear, I think this will be a decently solid spec for doing that. Now, this soloing ability comes from the really great synergy in their talent tree. First of all, Demonic Appetite will cause Chaos Blades, your main resource spender, to have a chance to spawn soul fragments. These are a bit like the orbs that are dropped by monks, and when you walk over them, they will heal you for nearly a third of your health bar, as well as reducing some cooldowns and also giving you some energy, or fury, I believe is the name of their resource. Now that's great, but what's kind of amazing is the synergy between Demonic and Soul Rending. So Demonic causes Eye Beam on a 45-second cooldown, and then Chaos Nova on a 40-second cooldown to transform you into a demon. That sounds okay, but here's the synergy. Soul Rending gives you 100% leech when you are a demon. So, on top of that, Metamorphosis is a 4-minute cooldown that transforms you into a demon for 30 seconds, during which you are nearly invincible due to the self-healing. Now, the effect of Demonic only lasts for 5 seconds, but that is actually enough to leech yourself a lot of health off whatever mob that you are fighting. So with this setup, Eye Beam and Chaos Nova are actually a bit more like healing utility rather than being straight DPS, so there might be times where you actually want to conserve them and do a bit less DPS in order to have assured survivability. So how does this perform when soloing content? Well, getting through Throne of Thunder 25 Heroic was really, really easy, and bear in mind that's the old raid system, so 25 Heroic was the hardest that content could possibly be. It was really easy until I hit Duramu. The fight with Duramu seems to be bugged. The red mobs only get uncovered very rarely by the beam, and after a whole bunch of attempts, I didn't get one where I could just clear all of the red mobs. The beam would be over them, yet they would not be revealed, which was quite a pity, and it made the fight unkillable. That's likely just a bug at the minute, though. Now, the rest of this instance was very easy, indeed far easier than it was on my Beast Mastery Hunter. While hunters have some self-healing with exhilaration and stuff like that, it isn't great when you run into fights that involve long periods of sustained damage that can't be unloaded on your pet, with, say, the Council of Elders being a good example. I couldn't clear Council of Elders 25 Heroic on a Beast Mastery Hunter. It was actually really quite easy on the Havoc Demon Hunter. Now, the gameplay throughout all of this was actually really, really enjoyable, and I can see people using this spec for farming old content that still has a degree of threat to it, due to how this is quite easy to do, yet has some really fun gameplay with, essentially, these active resources that can regain you health with the demonic talent, and then, of course, collecting all the little chaos orbs, or soul fragments, whatever, from your chaos strikes, and also it's quite fast to play as well. Now, the next thing that I wanted to do was clear Siege of Orgrimmar Mythic, up to the impossible to solo Galakras due to mechanical reasons. Unfortunately, I couldn't kill Immersius before the Enrage timer due to how Immersius's mechanics work. Even with throwing glaives and the talent which would give me 2 charges of my glaives, and using Fell Rush and the other one, the backflip thingy efficiently, I just wasn't able to kill enough slimes during the intermission phase. Now, with a tiny bit more gear, it will be soloable, but right now it's just a pain in the ass. I mean, come on, soloing Immersius sucks at the best of times. Stuff like the Protectors was very simple on Heroic due to a mix of the classes mechanics, but also, of course, the raid size scaling, though I was actually a tiny bit low on DPS for Shav Pride Heroic, in which you have to get to the second phase before the boss casts Imprison. If he casts Imprison, you're pretty much boned, but again, a tiny bit of gear solves this. Now, I did try to do some world boss soloing. I found that your man in Tanan Jungle, whose name I've completely forgotten, was just not killable. He totally wrecks you even when you're playing the tank spec of the Demon Hunter, and I looked for all of the other world bosses throughout both Draenor and Pandaria, and I could not find any of them. Now, all of the Pandaria world bosses are soloable at the minute, and I think hunters and some classes can actually kill Undasta. I really wanted to see how this would fare just one-on-one with Undasta, but Undasta had not spawned. I checked back loads of times, and since I couldn't see that many, well, I couldn't see any other world bosses, I'm just assuming they're not spawning on the particular alpha PvP server that's got these character templates. Anyway, that is pretty much it for this video. I thought it would be a fun little aside to demonstrate a side of gameplay to Demon Hunters that really hasn't been covered at all, I don't think, in the alpha testing process. And of course, you know, soloing stuff, that's what a lot of people do, right? And soloing this Mists of Pandaria content is going to be a really viable way to make money. So I'd say this will actually be quite applicable in a real-world scenario to what people will be doing when Legion comes out. So, TLDR, in any fight with regular, non-bullshit mechanics, so, you know, not Galakras, perhaps not a Mercius, the Havoc Demon Hunter shines when soloing and is a ton of fun to play. Indeed, it was a lot more enjoyable than playing a BM Hunter, and a lot of the content was a great deal easier at the same item level than it was on my BM Hunter. So that's pretty much it for this video. Some fun gameplay available here. The spec still has a few holes, still needs to be filled out, but they're making good progress on it, which is certainly nice to see. You can check out my updated overlook video on this spec. I'll put a link to it somewhere. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.